Space travel has always been a delicate, high-risk mission. But what if I told you there's a scenario where astronauts could be stuck in space for 8 months? This isn't science fiction, it's a real possibility. In this video, we'll explore how this situation could happen and what astronauts might have to do to survive. Space travel has come a long way since the early days of the Apollo missions. But even with modern technology, astronauts face a number of challenges. Mechanical failures, radiation exposure, and limited resources all make space a hostile environment. Now, imagine if a crewed mission ran into a catastrophic problem and the astronauts had no way to return home for months. How could this happen, and what would it mean? One of the most likely scenarios for astronauts being stranded involves a malfunction in their spacecraft. Spacecraft like the International Space Station, ISS, or planned missions to Mars have complex systems for life support, communication, and propulsion. If a major system fails, like the engine or re-entry module, astronauts could be left orbiting Earth or stuck on another planet for months while waiting for a rescue mission. Let's take a closer look at the International Space Station, where astronauts live and work for months at a time. If an emergency prevents them from returning to Earth, whether it's a damaged Soyuz capsule, malfunctioning spacecraft, or a delayed launch window, astronauts could be forced to wait for up to 8 months for the next available spacecraft to rescue them. But what happens while they're stuck in space? Let's break it down. Astronauts are trained for emergencies, and the ISS is stocked with enough food, water, and oxygen to last the crew for several months. However, after a certain point, they would begin to run low on critical supplies. They'd have to ration food, recycle as much water as possible, and carefully monitor oxygen levels. Their advanced systems can recycle CO2 into breathable air. But over time, wear and tear on the spacecraft could create new problems, especially with no way to make repairs or receive shipments from Earth. Beyond the physical challenges, being stuck in space comes with a psychological toll. Astronauts already deal with isolation and confinement in the best of circumstances, but the uncertainty of a prolonged stay would add incredible mental stress. Being cut off from Earth for extended periods, especially in an emergency, can lead to anxiety, depression, and feelings of hopelessness. NASA and other space agencies are working on ways to help astronauts deal with isolation. On the ISS, astronauts can video chat with loved ones, exercise to keep their spirits up, and maintain communication with mission control. However, the longer the isolation, the harder it becomes to manage mental health. If astronauts were stranded, a rescue mission would be a top priority. However, launching a spacecraft isn't like calling a taxi. There are limited windows for launches depending on the spacecraft's orbit and the position of Earth and other planets. For example, if a crew is stranded on Mars, the next launch window might be 6 to 8 months away, meaning they'd have to wait for an aligned orbit to send help. Even with advanced technology, rescue missions take time. Launching a spacecraft and reaching stranded astronauts involves complicated calculations, precise timing, and significant resources. So could astronauts survive being stuck in space for 8 months? The answer is, it's possible, but extremely challenging. Astronauts are trained to handle crises, and modern spacecraft are built with redundancies to help them survive. But a long-term isolation event like this would push their physical and mental limits. Fortunately, space agencies are preparing for these kinds of emergencies. For future missions to Mars, spacecraft will be designed with greater self-sufficiency. Technologies like 3D printers to create spare parts, advanced recycling systems, and even growing food in space will be crucial. The goal is to make astronauts less reliant on Earth, ensuring they can survive long-term missions, even in isolation. As humanity reaches further into space, these challenges will only grow. But with innovation, teamwork, and resilience, astronauts will continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. Who knows? One day, being stuck in space for months might not seem like such a big deal after all. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more fascinating space exploration stories.